parade. Can we please welcome our women's 1 meter this morning? We have got Maya Cutty from Southampton Diving Academy.
And please also welcome our Group A girls 3 meter athletes.
For the women's 1 meter, starter 1 is Maya Cutty from Southampton Diving Academy. Starter number 2 is Barbara Bartlovich from KSV Nemo. Starter number 3, Tilly Brown from Southampton Diving Academy. Starter 4, Bruna Hulevich from KSV Nemo. Starter 5 is Una Abima from Arkridgen Diving Team. Starter 6, Deshawn Ben Ashmill from Dive London. And starter number 7, Hannah Newbrick from Dive London.
And our Group A girls 3 meter athletes. Start number 1, Brooke Warslaw, Arizona, USA. Start number 2, Hannah Brocky, Dive London Aquatics Club. Start number 3, Yura Beganovic, KSV Nemo. Start number 4, Katie Martin, Plymouth Diving. Start number 5, Jamie Gilbert, Dive London Aquatics Club. Start number 6, Kitty Smith, Dive London Aquatics Club. Start number 7, Amelia Underwood, Plymouth Diving. Start number 8, Olivia Wall, Decorum Diving Club. Start number 9, Ellie Pearce, Plymouth Diving Club. Start number 10, Libby Duke, Edinburgh Diving Club. Start number 11, Scarlett Colburn, Plymouth Diving. Start number 12, Adeline Jenk, Arizona, USA. Start number 13, Lois Kasperkowicz, Dive London Aquatics Club. Start number 14, Maya Pearson, Plymouth Diving. Start number 15, Iona Moffat, Arizona, USA. Start number 16, Daisy Halls, Cambridge Dive Team. Start number 17, Lana Webb, Dive London Aquatics Club. Start number 18, Fiona Lobadices, Pacific Dive Academy. Start number 19, Claire Kettler, Dive London Aquatics Club. And start number 20, Nancy True, Dive London Aquatics Club. Thank you, divers. If you would like to get ready for your events, please can we have judges to seats, please? Judges to seats. Okay, we're still waiting on a couple of judges, please. So, a reminder for athletes, coaches and spectators. These events will run simultaneously, and as they are simultaneously, our referees will use hand paddles to indicate to the divers when to go. At the end of the women's 1 meter events, we will then move to a whistle on the girls' 3 meter, and as well as a whistle, we will be pausing the music for each dive as well. Okay, we need one more judge on both the 1 meter and both the 3 meter, please. thank you, Mr. Owens. And thank you, Tommy, for stepping in on 3 metre. Okay, with the referee's permission, on 3 metre, please.
Just like the white window, sing the song, sound like she's singing. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Just like the white window, sing
Brooke Warsaw, Arizona, USA, inward 1.5 somersaults with tuck. Four and a half, 5, 5, 5.5, 5. Hannah Brocky, dive London Aquatics Club, back dive piked. Seven and a half, 6.5, 7, 7, 6. Yura Beganov, KSV Nemo, inward 1.5 somersaults piked. Five, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 4.5. Katie Martin, Plymouth Diving, inward 1.5 somersaults piked. Five and a half, 6, 5.5, 5.5, 5. Jamie Gilbert, inward 1.5 somersaults piked. And the scores for Jamie Gilbert of Dive London: 5.5, 6.5, 6, 6, 5.5. Kitty Smith, Dive London Aquatics Club, forward 1.5 somersaults piked. Six and a half, 6.
7.5, 6.5, 7, 6.5, 7.5.
And the scores for Ellie on 3 metre, 6, 6, 6.5, 6, 5.5.
Bruna Khuljev, KSV Nemo, forward 1.5 somersaults, 1 twist.
Libby Duke, Edinburgh Diving Club, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked. Six and a half, 7, 6.5, 7, 6.5.
6.5, 6.5, 7, 7, 7.5.
Scarlett Colburn, Plymouth Diving Club, inward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
Una Abema, Arcrogen Diving Team, inward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
Five, 6, 5, 5.5, 5.5. Adeline Jenk, Arizona, USA, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
6.5, 7, 6.5, 6.5, 7. Deshaun Ben Ashmel, Dive London, inward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
5.5, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 6. Lois Casper Cowich, Dive London Aquatics Club, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
7, 7.5, 7, 7.5, 8. Hannah Newbrook, Dive London Aquatics Club, back 1.5 somersaults, half twist, free position.
7, 7, 6, 6, 7. Maya Pearson, Plymouth Diving, inward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
6, 6, 6, 6.5, 5. On to round 2. Maya Cutty, reverse 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist, free position.
5.5, 6, 6, 6, 5.5. Iona Moffat, Arizona, USA, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
6.5, 7, 6.5, 6.5, 7. Barbara Bartlich, reverse 1.5 somersaults, half twist, free position.
6, 7, 6, 7, 6.5. Daisy Halls, Cambridge Dive Team, inward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
6, 7, 6.5, 6, 6. Diver 3, Tilly, forward 2.5 somersaults, piked.
And Daisy scores 7, 6.5, 6, 7, 7. Lana Webb, Dive London Aquatics Club, inward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
7.5, 7, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5. Bruna, forward 2.5 somersaults, piked.
6.5, 6.5, 7, 6, 6. Fiona Lobodices, Pacific Dive Academy, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
6, 5.5, 5.5, 6, 4.5. Una, forward 2.5 somersaults, piked.
6, 6.5, 6, 6.5, 6. Claire Kettler, Dive London Aquatics Club, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
5, 5, 5, 5.5, 5. Deshawn, forward 2.5 somersaults, piked.
5.5, 6.5, 5, 4.5, 5. Our final diver of round 1 on 3 metre, Nancy True, dive London Aquatics Club, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
7, 7, 6.5, 7.5, 6.5. Hannah, reverse dive, pike.
6.5, 6, 6.5, 7, 6. Round 2, Brooke, back dive, piked.
5.5, 5.5, 6, 6.5, 7. Seniors go on to round 3. Maya, back 1.5 somersaults, piked.
Four and a half, 6, 5, 4.5, 5.
7.5, 6, 7, 7, 7.
Hannah, reverse dive, piked.
Barbara, reverse 1.5 somersaults, piked.
6.5, 6.5, 6, 5.5, 6.
6, 6.5, 5, 5.5, 6.
Yuria, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
Tilly, forward 1.5 somersaults, 1 twist.
Five, 5.5, 6, 5, 5.5. Katie, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
7, 8, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5. Bruna, reverse 1.5 somersaults, piked.
6, 6, 6, 5.5, 6. Jamie, inward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
4.5, 5.5, 4.5, 4.5, 3.5. Una, back 1.5 somersaults, piked.
6, 5.5, 6, 6, 6. Kitty, back dive, piked.
7, 6.5, 6.5, 7, 6. Deshawn, back 1.5 somersaults, piked.
6.5, 6, 7, 6.5, 6. Amelia, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
7, 6.5, 7, 7.5, 7.5. Hannah, back 1.5 somersaults, piked.
7, 6.5, 7, 6, 6. Olivia, inward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
6.5, 5.5, 6.5, 7, 7. On to round 4. Maya, reverse 1.5 somersaults, piked.
6, 6.5, 6, 5.5, 6.5.
7.5, 7.5, 7, 7.5, 7.
Ellie, forward 1.5 somersaults with tuck.
Barbara, forward 2.5 somersaults, piked. Six and a half, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 6.
6.5, 7, 6.5, 6.5, 6. Libby, back dive piked.
Tilly, back 1.5 somersaults, piked.
Six and a half, 7, 6.5, 7, 6.5.
4, 4.5, 4.5, 4, 4.5.
Scarlett, back dive piked.
Bruna, back 1.5 somersaults, pike.
Like it's both my ends, all these M's that I've been for, I'm supposed to spend. I'm a real player, no rookie. I'ma have my cake if you want this cookie. He said, give me that gushy. I said, I need 100K, you're better to book. I like my money, I like your money. I like walk through residual and show money. Beat the beat up like it's stole from me. Been a long time since I had no money. Please keep quiet when the big boss.
4.5, 5, 5, 5, 5.
7, 7, 6.5, 7, 6.5.
Adeline, back dive piked.
Bruna, back 1.5, oh sorry, apologies. Una, reverse 1.5 somersaults, piked.
Six, 6.5, 6, 5.5, 5.5.
2.5, 5, 4, 4, 4.
Lois, back dive piked.
Deshawn, reverse 1.5 somersaults, pike.
Fly first class now, but I used to flying coach. Got $1 million limit on the credit card I spend most. Oh God. Seen a lamb and a roar, I couldn't decide, so I bought both. Oh God. They be talking about
7, 7.5, 6.5, 7, 6.5.
6, 6.5, 6.5, 5.5, 6.
Maya, forward 1.5 somersaults piked.
Hannah, forward 2.5 somersaults, pike.
Couldn't pick a friend 'cause they all fine. Told her give me both, cut the lights down.
Don't you tell me that it's love or money. I won't go. Ain't no way I let you take one from me. I won't go. All the feels, all the feelings I can feel.
6.5, 7, 6, 6.5, 7.
5.5, 4.5, 6, 5.5, 6.
Iona, back dive piked.
On to our final round for our senior 1 meter event. Maya Cutty, Southampton Diving Academy, forward 2.5 somersaults, piked.
You running off the road, so get out the way, push the pedal to the
5.5, 6.5, 6.5, 7, 6.
You see I'm getting close, I accelerate.
7, 7.5, 7, 8, 7.
The gas, lose
Daisy, back dive piked.
rolling high.
Barbara Bartolich, KSV Nemo, inward 1.5 somersaults, pike.
Lose control, I won't crash, rolling low, I won't crash. When you slow, I won't crash, rolling. Take. You running off the road, so get out the way, push the pedal.
4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 5, 5.5.
You see I'm getting close, I accelerate, go.
Lana, forward 1.5 somersaults piked.
Lose control, I won't crash, rolling high. Put your money
5, 4.5, 4.5, 5.5, 5.
control, I won't crash, rolling low, I won't crash. When you slow,
Tilly Brown, Southampton Diving Academy, reverse 1.5 somersaults, pike.
you running off the road, so get out the way, push the pedal to the floor, blow 'em all
4.5, 5, 5, 5.5, 5.5.
Accelerate, going faster than fast. Hit the
Fiona, inward 1.5 somersaults piked.
rolling high. Put your money
7, 7.5, 7, 6.5, 7.5.
control. I won't crash, rolling low. I won't
Bruna Khuljev, KSV Nemo, inward 1.5 somersault, piked.
take you running off the road, so get out the way. Push the pedal to the floor, go all the way. Yeah, you see I'm getting close. I accelerate, going faster than
6.5, 6, 6.5, 6.5, 5.5.
rolling high. Put your money on the
Claire, back dive piked.
lose control.
7, 6, 6.5, 7, 7.
I won't crash, rolling. Take
Una Abma, our pigeon diving team, reverse 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position.
Six, 7, 5.5, 4.5, 6.5. Nancy, back dive piked.
5.5, 6.5, 6, 7.5, 6. Jasharon Ben Ashmiel, dive London Aquatics, reverse 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free.
Take your time, your time. Late in the evening, I want you. I do what I got to feel you in me. I already told you to hold me. I already told you.
4, 5, 5, 5.5, 5.5. Round 3, Brooke, reverse dive piked.
6, 6, 5.5, 5.5, 6. Hannah Newbrook, dive London Aquatics Club, inward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
I'm deep in your love, deep in your love. I'm deep in your love, deep in your love.
5, 6, 5.5, 5.5, 5.
Come and play.
6, 6,
Hannah, forward 1.5 somersaults piked.
6, 6, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5. And that concludes our women's 1 meter event. Thank you divers, thank you judges.
Feel you in me. I already told you to hold me. I already told you. My heart goes.
7, 6.5, 7, 6.5, 6.5.
My heart goes.
Yuria, back dive piked. Five, 4.5, 5, 5, 5. Divers on 3 meter, please beware the referee will now use a whistle to indicate your dive. Katie, back dive piked. Six and a half, 6.5, 7, 7, 7.5. Jamie, back dive piked. Five, 6, 5, 4, 4.5. Kitty, reverse dive piked.
honest, I still want your hands up
6,
on
6 and a
my
half,
body.
6, 5,
You still
5.
make my heart beat fast. Ferrari with me in the
Amelie,
wave, but
back dive
in
pikes.
the morning. Do you still want me? Can I be honest? I still
6, 6, 6, 6 and a half, 7.
You still make my heart beat fast. Ferrari.
Olivia, back dive
with me in the
pikes.
wave, but in- in the morning. Do you still want me?
6, 6 and a half, 6 and a half, 6 and a half, 6. Ellie, back dive straight.
Do you still want me?
6 and a half, 7, 6 and a half, 7, 6. Libby, reverse dive pikes. Seven and a half, 7 and a half, 6 and a half, 7 and a half, 6 and a half. Scarlett, reverse dive pikes. Five and a half, 6, 6, 5 and a half, 5 and a half. Adeline, reverse dive pikes.
Can I be honest? I still want your hands up on my body.
4, 4, 4, 4, 4 and a half.
With me in the wave, but in the morning.
Lois, reverse dive
Do you still
pikes.
want me? Can I be honest? I still want your hands up on my body.
6 and a half, 7, 6 and a half, 6 and a half, 6 and a half.
With me in the wave, but in the morning.
Maya, back dive
Do you
pikes.
still want me?
Six and a half, 7, 6 and a half, 6 and a half, 6 and a half. Iona, reverse dive pikes. Four and a half, 5 and a half, 5 and a half, 5, 5. Daisy, reverse dive piked. Five, 5.5, 5.5, 5, 5. Lana, back dive piked.
Can I be honest? I still want your
5, 6, 5.5, 4.5, 5.5. Fiona, forward 1.5 somersaults, 1 twist, free position.
You still want me?
6.5, 6, 6.5, 6, 6.5. Claire, reverse dive piked. Five and a half, 6, 6, 5.5, 5. Nancy, reverse dive piked.
Turn on the lights.
Things I'm going through and what they going through right now is like
5, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 4.5. Moving into round 4. Brooke, forward 1.5 somersaults, piked.
Till I'm in
4.5, 4.5, 5.5, 5, 5.5. Hannah, in with 1.5 somersaults, piked.
turn on the lights.
5.5, 5, 5, 5, 5.
Turn on the lights.
Yulia, reverse dive piked. Six, 5.5, 6, 5.5, 5.5.
Don't put me down, I'll never let you sweep me off my feet.
Katie, reverse dive
I
piked.
won't let you. Again, the messages I've tried to send, my information's just not going in.
6, 6, 6, 5.5, 6. Jamie, reverse dive piked. 5.5, 6.5, 6, 5.5, 5.5. Kitty in with 1.5 somersaults piked. Five and a half, 6, 6, 6, 6. Amelie, reverse dive piked. Six, 6.5, 5.5, 6, 5. Olivia, reverse dive piked. Seven, 7.5, 7.5, 7, 7. Apologies, I'll re-announce. 7.5, 7, 7, 7, 7. Ellie, reverse 1.5 somersaults with tuck. Four and a half, 4.5, 4.5, 5, 4.5. Apologies, the last score is a 4. Libby in with 1.5 somersaults piked. Six and a half, 6, 6.5, 7, 6. Scarlett forward 1.5 somersaults piked. Five, 5.5, 5.5, 6, 5.5. Adeline in with 1.5 somersaults with tuck. Four and a half, 4, 4, 4, 4. Lois in with 1.5 somersaults piked. Five, 6, 5, 3, 4.5. Maya, reverse dive piked. 5, 4.5, 5, 5. Iona, inward 1.5 somersaults, pikes. 5, 6, 5.5, 5, 4.5. Daisy, forward 1.5 somersaults, pikes. 5, 5, 5.5, 5, 5.5. Lana, reverse dive pikes. 5, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 5. Fiona, back dive pikes. 4, 4, 3.5, 3.5, 4. Claire, inward 1.5 somersaults, pikes. 5.5, 4.5, 4.5, 5, 5. And our final dive of round 4, Nancy, inward 1.5 somersaults, pikes. 5.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 5.5. Round 5, Brooke, forward 1.5 somersaults, 1 twist, free position. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Hannah, forward 1.5 somersaults, 1 twist, free position. 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 7, 5.5. Yuria, forward 1.5 somersaults, 1 twist, free position. 4.5, 3.5, 5, 5.5, 5.5. Katie, back 1.5 somersaults, half twist, free position.
5.5,
5 and a half, 5 and a half, 5 and a half, 5, 6. Jamie, forward 1 and a half somersaults, 1 twist, free position. Five and a half, 6, 6, 5, 6. Kitty, back 1 and a half somersaults, half twist, free position. Six, 6, 6, 6 and a half, 5 and a half. Amelie, forward 1 and a half somersaults, 1 twist, free position. Seven, 7, 7, 7, 7. Olivia, forward 1 and a half somersaults, 1 twist, free position. Six, 6, 6, 6 and a half, 6 and a half. Ellie, back 1 and a half somersaults, half twist, free position. Five, 5 and a half, 5 and a half, 5, 5 and a half. Libby, forward 1 and a half somersaults, 1 twist, free position. Six, 6, 5 and a half, 6 and a half, 6 and a half. Scarlett, forward 1 and a half somersaults, 1 twist, free position. Five and a half, 6, 5 and a half, 6, 5. Adeline, forward 1 and a half somersaults, 1 twist, free position. Three and a half, 4, 3, 3, 4. Lois, forward 1 and a half somersaults, 1 twist, free position.
Welcome to the drum and dice. We came to shut down the ride.
5 and a half, 5 and a half, 6, 4 and a half, 5. Maya, back 1.5 somersaults, half twist, free position.
Crazy, you turn me on, let me charm you.
6.5, 6, 6.5, 6, 6.
You got me going crazy, you turn
Iona, forward 1.5 somersaults and 1 twist, free position. Six, 6, 5.5, 6, 5.5. Daisy, forward 1.5 somersaults, 1 twist, free position. Five, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5. Lana, forward 1.5 somersaults, 1 twist, free position.
Feels like we're getting closer to dawn. Took the long
6, 6, 6, 6, 6.5.
and got blinded by
Fiona, reverse dive piked.
but it's long as we're together. I know it would be
6, 6, 6.5, 6, 6.
see a better day. I see a better day for
Claire,
you.
back 1.5 somersaults, half twist, free position.
I see a better day. Yeah, everything is
6, 6, 6, 6.5, 5.5. Nancy, back 1.5 somersaults, half twist, free position. Five, 6, 5.5, 6, 5.5. And round 6, Brooke, back 1.5 somersaults, piked. Five, 5, 5, 4.5, 4.5. Hannah, forward 2.5 somersaults, piked. 5.5, 6, 6, 4.5, 5.
Soon we'll be feeling weightless.
Yuria, inward, 2.5 somersaults with tuck.
Long way.
4.5, 4.5, 4, 3.5, 4. Katie, inwards, 2.5 somersaults with tuck.
See a better day. I see a better day for you and me.
5.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 5.
Everything is gonna change for you and
Jamie, forward, 2.5 somersaults, pikes. 5.5, 6, 5.5, 5, 4.5. Kitty, inward, 2.5 somersaults with tuck. 5.5, 5, 5.5, 5, 5. Emily, back 2.5 somersaults with tuck. 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 4.5, 4.5. Olivia, forward, 2.5 somersaults, pikes. 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 6, 5.5. Ellie, back 2.5 somersaults with tuck. 5.5, 6.5, 6, 6, 5.5. Libby, back 2.5 somersaults with tuck. 4.5, 5, 5, 5.5, 4.5. Scarlett, forward 2.5 somersaults, pikes. Five and a half, 6, 5.5, 5, 5.5. Adeline, forwards 2.5 somersaults, pikes. Four, 4, 4, 3, 3.5. Lois, forwards 2.5 somersaults, pikes. Five and a half, 5.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5. Maya, back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position. Six and a half, 6.5, 6.5, 6, 6. Iona, back 2.5 somersaults with tack. Four, 4.5, 4, 3.5, 4. Daisy, forward 2.5 somersaults, pikes. Six, 6, 6.5, 6, 6. Lana, inward 2.5 somersaults, pikes. Three, 2, 2.5, 2, 3. Fiona, inward 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Six, 6, 6.5, 5.5, 5.5. Claire, forwards 2.5 somersaults, pikes. 4.5, 5.5, 5, 4, 4. Nancy, inward 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Five, 5.5, 5.5, 6. Round 7, Brooke, back 1.5 somersaults, half twist, free position. Four and a half, 5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5. Hannah, reverse 1.5 somersaults, pikes.
Watch like barely ever get
3.5, 4.5, 4, 3.5, 4. Yuria, forward 2.5 somersaults, pikes. Five and a half, 5, 5.5, 5, 5.5. Katie, back 2.5 somersaults with tuck.
Go on, KT!
Three and a half, 4.5, 4, 4, 4. Jamie, inwards 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Six, 6, 6, 5.5, 5.5. Kitty, forwards 2.5 somersaults, pikes. Five and a half, 6, 5, 5.5, 5. Amelie, reverse 2.5 somersaults with tuck.
I would have probably been there, but
Five and a half, 6, 6, 5.5, 5.5. Olivia, inwards 2.5 somersaults with tuck.
I'm listening to them. Probably young, like Monica. When I first met everyone.
5.5, 5, 5.5, 4.5, 5. Ellie, back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position.
Go Ellie! I'm so bad. Tom actually training them. Yeah,
Six, 6, 6, 5.5, 5. Libby, inwards 2.5 somersaults with tuck.
when I was younger, I always did it. Yeah, now he's just
Five and a half, 5, 5.5, 5.5, 4.5. Scarlett, inward 2.5 somersaults with tuck.
might have to be the first count. Do it from the back. Charge Olympic gold medal.
5.5, 5.5, 5, 4.5, 5. Adeline, inward double somersault with tuck.
Never really gone. You think you're moving on, but it won't be for long. You'll see when I'm
3.5, 4, 3, 2.5, 3.5.
moving on, but no one's gonna feel
Lois, inwards 2.5 somersaults with tuck.
easy to forget me. Let go of
4.5, 5, 4, 4, 4.
now your bed is empty. You're waking
Maya, inwards 2.5 somersaults with tuck.
Yeah, Maya!
4.5, 5, 5, 4.5, 5. Iona, forward 2.5 somersaults, pikes.
never really gone. You think
5.5, 6, 5.5, 5, 5.
you'll see when I'm gone. I'm never really gone.
Daisy, inward 2.5 somersaults with tuck. 6, 6, 6, 5.5, 5.5. Lana back 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Two, 3.5, 3, 2.5, 2.5. Fiona back 2.5 somersaults piked. Four, 5, 5.5, 5, 5. Claire back 1.5 somersaults piked. Six, 6, 6, 6, 5.5. Nancy back 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Two and a half, 3.5, 3.5, 2.5, 2.5. Round 7. Sorry, correction, round 8. Brooke inwards 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Four, 4, 4, 3.5, 4.5. Hannah back 1.5 somersaults piked. Six, 6, 6, 5.5, 5.5. Yuria back 2.5 somersaults with tuck. One, 2.5, 1.5, 1.5. Katie, reverse 2.5 somersaults with tuck. 5 and a half, 5 and a half, 5 and a half, 5 and a half, 6. Jamie, back 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Three and a half, 3 and a half, 2 and a half, 2 and a half, 3 and a half. Kitty, reverse 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Five and a half, 5 and a half, 5, 5, 5. Amelie, forward 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist, piked. Four and a half, 5, 4, 4, 4 and a half. Olivia, reverse 1.5 somersaults, piked. Four, 5, 4.5, 3.5, 4. Ellie, inwards 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Six, 5, 6.5, 6, 6. Libby, forwards 2.5 somersaults, piked. Five and a half, 6, 6, 6, 5.5. Scarlett, back 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Four, 4.5, 4, 3, 4. Adeline, reverse 1.5 somersaults with tuck. 2, 3, 3, 1.5, 2. Lois, back 1.5 somersaults, pikes. Six and a half, 6, 6, 6, 5.5. Maya, back 2.5 somersaults with tuck.
Go Maya!
5, 5, 4.5, 5, 4.5. Iona, inwards 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Six, 4.5, 6, 6, 5.5. Daisy, reverse 1.5 somersaults, pikes. Four and a half, 5, 4.5, 4, 4. Lana, reverse 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Four and a half, 6, 4.5, 4, 5.5. Fiona, reverse 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Three and a half, 5.5, 4, 3, 3.5. Claire, reverse 1.5 somersaults with tuck. Six, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5. Nancy, reverse 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Four, 4.5, 4, 4, 4. And our final round of dives, Brooke Warslaw, Arizona, USA, forward 2.5 somersaults, piked. Four and a half, 4, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5. Hannah Brocky, dive London Aquatics Club, back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position. Six, 5.5, 5. Yulia Baganovic, KSV Nemo, forward 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist, piked. Judge 2 and Judge 3, please. Half, 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 half. Katie Martin, Plymouth diving, back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position. Six and a half, 7, 7, 7, 6.5. Jamie Gilbert, dive London Aquatic Club, reverse 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Three and a half, 5, 3.5, 4.5, 4.5. Kitty Smith, dive London Aquatics Club, back 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Six, 5, 5.5, 6, 5.5. Emily Underwood, Plymouth diving, forward 3.5 somersaults with tuck. Three and a half, 3.5, 3.5, 2.5, 3.5. Olivia Wall, Decorum Diving Club. Back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position. Six, 7.5, 6.5, 7, 7. Ellie Pearce, Plymouth diving, forwards 2.5 somersaults, piked. 6.5, 7, 6.5, 7, 6.
Jocks from Amsterdam.
Libby Duke, Edinburgh Diving Club, back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position.
Come up from Asia. She should have been at least a while. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Like last year.
Five and a half, 6.5, 5.5, 6.5, 6.5. Scarlett Colborne, Plymouth Diving, back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position. Four, 5.5, 5.5, 5, 5. Adeline Jenk, Arizona, USA, back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position. Five, 5.5, 5.5, 5, 5. Lois Kasperkowicz, back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position. And the scores for Lois of Dive London, 4, 5, 4, 4, 4. Maya Pearson, Plymouth Diving, reverse 2.5 somersaults with tuck. Five and a half, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5, 5.5.
Jocks from Amsterdam.
Iona Moffat, Arizona, USA, back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position. Five and a half, 5.5, 6, 5.5, 5.
Jocks from Amsterdam.
Daisy Halls, Cambridge Dive Team, back 1.5 somersaults, piked. Five, 5.5, 5.5, 4.5, 5.5. Alana Webb, Dive London Aquatics Club, forwards 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist, piked. Half, 3.5, 1.5, 1.5, 2. Fiona Lobadices, Pacific Dive Academy, forwards 2.5 somersaults, piked. 7, 7, 6.5, 6.5, 7. Claire Kettler, Dive London Aquatics Club, a back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position. Four and a half, 5.5, 4.5, 4, 4.5. And our final diver of this event, Nancy True, Dive London Aquatics Club, a back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, free position. Five, 5.5, 5, 5.5, 5. Thank you, divers. Thank you, judges. Thank you, volunteers. That concludes our session 1 for today. We will now go into 30 minutes of restricted training for session 4. So Group A boys platform, Group C boys 3 meter. The 1 meters will be open for general training, but the 3 meters and the platform are restricted to the boys.